Etepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer, may Buddha bless you, Grand Rising. This is Qesankh Keperu with another exciting video for you. And in this video, we're going to be talking about how the grand jury declines to indict the woman in the Emmett case. But before I go on to that, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you want to know more about my spiritual teachings, you can scroll down below, click on some of the links, and download a free ebook where you'll get more instruction on the esoteric and the spiritual. However, if you want to follow that rabbit down the rabbit hole, you can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1, $2, $5, or $20 per month. It's up to you, and you can decline at any time. You get exclusive access to instructional videos on the esoteric, videos on how to meditate, proper breathing exercises, how to contact the ancestors, how to invoke a spirit, and so much more. If you are a $20 supporter at the Osirian level, you'll get all your oracle readings for free. Last but not least, share this video for family and friends so that we can get the revolution started. Haru Nefer, how are you? I want to talk about a very, very serious and important case here, which is the Emmett case. And I have been following it from some years now. Happened nearly 70 years ago. And this case is being top of mind to most people in the Black community. But there's some things I really want to talk about here that are very, very important. And it's key things that I think that we are missing in that understanding about how to get justice in today's world. And we know that justice was governed by the goddess, or is governed by, I should say, the goddess Ma'at, goddess of truth, justice, and righteousness. So, if you're not familiar with the Emmett Till case, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old boy, and it was claimed that he whistled at a white woman. Her name is Carolyn Brandt. And soon following in that, he was kidnapped, tortured, and lynched in Mississippi just for the accusation that he whistled at this white woman. And this is back around 1955. He was a 14-year-old boy whose life was taken from him simply because this white woman, Carolyn Bryant, said he whistled at her. Now, if he did or didn't, there's no cause to take this young boy's life. They did a home invasion, took him out of his home, tortured him, threw him in a river. And when his mother and the police got his body out of the water, it was so deformed that they asked her if she wanted to have a closed casket funeral. And she said, no, I want them to see what they did to my boy, the world to see what they did to my boy. Now, the reason this case is so important is because justice was never served. There was a trial with an all-white jury, and the men in this case got off. Carolyn Bryant was never brought to justice, and the years passed. They have recently discovered two things. One, I believe it was a warrant for her arrest, which was never served. Just recently discovered that. And two, an author by the name of Timothy Tyler, who was investigating this and writing a book on it. I'm sorry, Timothy Tyson said, or allegedly said, that Carolyn Bryant, upon interviewing her for his book on the Emmett Till case, admitted to her involvement in his death. Now, I'm not going to go into the gruesome details or even show you the photos of him lying in the casket. You can look those up on the internet. But this old woman is now approximately 80 years old. She's still alive. They think she's in Kentucky. So when they found this, I believe it's a warrant, the family of Emmett Till wanted justice. So they asked that this warrant be executed. And there was a lot of filibuster, a lot of time passed. No one knows why it wasn't executed. Then finally, when we thought that we were going to get justice, the Biden administration said they would do nothing to further this case. In fact, the Biden administration closed the door on this case. This and sister girl Kamala Harris, who is known for prosecuting black men and withholding evidence that would free black men, Kamala Harris. And I want you all who voted for Biden to really think about the damage he is doing to this country with the inflation, the gas prices, the supermarket store shelves empty. The media manipulated you into voting for him. Biden, who took money away from historically black colleges, when Trump gave money more than even more than even Obama. Biden defunded the HBCUs. He declined to do police reform, gave money to the alphabet community, put bills in to protect their rights, and to this date has done zero for black people who put him in office, mostly Democrats. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about Emmett Till's mother and what she has gone through for over 70 years trying to get justice for her son. And this man in office who is not mentally all there, who is not capable of running the country because he's tripping all over everything and pooping in his pants, closed the book on the case. Well, to add insult to injury, a Mississippi grand jury has declined to indict the white woman whose accusation led to the lynching of Emmett Till. I'm going to say that again. A Mississippi grand jury has declined to indict Carolyn Brandt, whose accusation led to the lynching of Emmett Till. 70 years later, we still can't get justice for this young boy. But there are a lot of things behind this case, and probably some of the reasons why the Mississippi grand jury did not indict her. So let's go into this so we can understand this further. I'm going to share my screen so we can get some more insight into this. A Mississippi jury has declined to indict the white woman whose accusation led to the lynching of a black teenager, Emmett Till, nearly 70 years ago. Jackson, Mississippi. A Mississippi grand jury has declined to indict the white woman whose accusation set off the lynching of a black teenager, Emmett Till, nearly 70 years ago. most likely closing the case that shocked a nation and galvanized the modern civil rights movement. After hearing more than 7 hours of testimony from investigators and witnesses, a LaFleur County grand jury last week determined there was insufficient evidence to indict Carolyn Brandt Donham on charges of kidnapping and manslaughter. LaFleur County District Attorney Dwayne Richardson said in a news release Tuesday, the decision comes despite recent revelations about an unserved arrest warrant and the 87-year-old Donham's unpublished memoir. That's the memoir where she admitted to her involvement. The Reverend Wheeler Parker Jr., Emmett Till's cousin and the last living witness to Till's August 28, 1955 abduction, said Tuesday's announcement is unfortunate but predictable. The prosecutor tried his best, and we appreciate his efforts, but he alone cannot undo hundreds of years of anti-Black systems that guaranteed those who killed Emmett Till would go unpunished to this day, Parker said in a statement. The fact remains that the people who abducted, tortured, and murdered Emmett Till did so in plain sight, and our American justice system was and continues to set up in such a way that they could not be brought to justice for their heinous crimes. Ollie Gordon's, another one of Till's cousins, told the Associated Press that some justice has been served in the Till case despite the grand jury's decision. Justice is not always locking somebody up and throwing the keys away, Gordon said. Miss Donham has not gone to jail, but in many ways, I don't think she has a pleasant life. I think each day she wakes up, she has to face the atrocities that have come because of her actions. A third cousin, Deborah Watts, who leads the Emmett Till Legacy Foundation, said the case is an example of the freedom afforded to white women to escape accountability for making false accusations against Black men. She has still escaped any accountability in this case, Watts said. So the grand jury's decision is disappointing, but we're still going to be calling for justice for Emmett Till. It's not over. An email and voicemail seeking comment from Dunham's son, Tom Brandt, weren't immediately returned Tuesday. In June, a group searching the basement of the LaFleur County Courthouse discovered the unserved arrest warrant charging Donham then husband Roy Bryant and brother-in-law J.W. Millen in Till's abduction in 1955. While the men were arrested and acquitted on murder charges in Till's subsequent slaying, Donham, 21 at the time, was never taken into custody. This white woman who made the accusation and they killed Emmett Till was never charged. That's horrific. The 14-year-old Chicago boy was visiting relatives in Mississippi when he and some other children went to the store in the town of Money where Carolyn Bryant worked. Relatives told the AP that Till had whistled at the white woman but denied that he touched her, as she claimed. In an unpublished memoir obtained last month by the AP, Donham, that's Carolyn Bryant, said Millen and her husband brought Till to her in the middle of the night for identification, but that she tried to help the boy, but by denying it was him. She claimed that Till then volunteered that he was the one they were looking for. She is such a liar. She is lying. She claimed that Till then volunteered that he was the one they were looking for. So this young boy volunteered to say, yeah, I'm the one you're looking for, knowing that he would be killed. Who would do such a dumb thing? She's such a liar. Till's battered, disfigured body was found days later in a river where it was weighed down with a heavy metal fan. The decision by his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, to open Till's casket for his funeral in Chicago demonstrated the horror of what had happened and added fuel to the civil rights movement. Following their acquittal, Bryant and Millen admitted to the abduction and killing in an interview with Look magazine. They were not charged with a federal crime, and both have long since died. The federal government should have intervened immediately. In 2004, the U.S. Department of Justice opened an investigation of Till's killing after it received inquiries about whether charges could be brought against anyone still living. Of course, murder charges don't have a statute of limitations, of course. Till's body was exhumed in part to confirm it was he. A 2005 autopsy found that Till died of a gunshot wound to the head, and that had fractures in his wrist, bone, skull, and femur. In 2006, the FBI launched its cold case initiative in an effort to identify and investigate racially motivated murders. 2 years later, Congress passed the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Act. What a joke. We don't get justice, but we get some token bill or Civil Rights Crime Act in an effort just to appease us. That's a freaking joke. And we should all be insulted by that. The Justice Department said the statute of limitations had run out on any potential federal crime. The FBI worked with the state investigators to determine if state charges could be brought up. In February 2007, a Mississippi grand jury declined to indict anyone, and the Justice Department announced it was closing the case. What the? Please excuse me. Please excuse me. You've exhumed the body. You've launched an investigation. The guys admitted to what they did. Carolyn Bryant is still around, and you decline to take action. My brothers and sisters, you're looking at the epitome of evil. You are looking at the epitome of evil. What is in the hearts of men that would consider killing a Black boy to be a righteous act on their part? This is disgusting. It's disgusting what these white men did. It's disgusting what our government has done, ignoring this case. But I digress. Let's continue. I'm just emotional because I'm allowing my person to be emotional because I feel so sorry for the mother and this young boy. The federal officers announced last year that they were once again closing their investigation, saying there was insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she lied to the FBI. Timothy Tyson, the North Carolina historian who interviewed Dunham, that's Carolyn Bryant, for his 2017 book, The Blood of Emmett Till, said the newly discovered warrant did nothing to appreciably change the concrete evidence against her. But he said the renewed focus on the case should compel Americans to face the racial and economic disparities that still exist here. The Till case will not go away because the racism and ruthless indifference that created it remain with us, Tyson wrote in an email Tuesday. We see generations of Black children struggle against these obstacles, and many die due to systematic racism that is every bit as lethal as a rope or a revolver. That is true. For Gordon, the renewed tension on the Till case has been a reminder of the social progress it helped spark. It helps the younger generation identify how far we've come with the many liberties and civil rights that we've gained since Emmett Till's death, Gordon says. As his mother would say, his death was not in vain. I want to talk to you from a spiritual perspective so that you understand the gravity of the situation here. I cannot 100% blame this system because we know what this system is about. It's about white supremacy. So I cannot blame it Because a scorpion is going to do what a scorpion is going to do. It's not going to change its colors. And it is said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You see, we protest, we turn to politics, we turn to individuals, and yet our plight does not change. And instead of us taking a different approach and understanding who and what we're dealing with, we just wash, rinse, and repeat. And if history gives us an insight into the future, we should come to realize that these means and methods will not turn anything profitable to us, that our efforts will be in vain. But yet, we poured money into Black Lives Matter. We voted for Biden. We support organizations like the NAACP, Congressional Black Caucus, the Nation of Islam, and they do nothing for us. Nothing. We cry, Black Lives Matter, no justice, no peace, and get nothing in return. So I'm going to tell you the backstory of the Emmett Till case so you have some context. You see, when they went to the river to pull out Emmett Till's body, when they pulled out the body, the mother looked to identify Till and said emphatically, "That's not my son." So they went back down into the river and pulled out another body. And she said, "That's not my son." And then they went and pulled out another body. And she said, "That's not my son." They pulled out 8 bodies that day before they got to Emmett Till's body, which tells you that that river had been a dumping ground for the murder and slaying of young Black boys. Maybe that's why Mississippi doesn't want to open this door. Because if you open the door to this one case, you can open the door to all those other cases. Now let's go further. We hear nothing about Emmett Till's father, who was executed by the military on false charges. Let me say it again. Executed by the military on false charges. I want to tell you all who failed Emmett Till and his mother and his father. We did. We failed the family. And I've been saying it on my channel over and over again that our conduct is incorrect. That we cannot ask for justice when we are the perpetrators and supporters of white supremacy. When you vote for a man like Biden, when you throw money into a BLM, you are a supporter of white supremacy. The white oligarchy, the 1%ers, want to wipe you off the planet. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. We've known that for a long time. And instead of us looking for new strategic methods to counteract the evil that they're doing, we drop back to old sayings of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Marcus Garvey, not realizing that the enemy has a new strategy. And every one of us, instead of fighting white supremacy, We have done all that we can to assimilate in it. We have done all that we can to support it. When I got out of college, I joined a Black organization. When that organization was dispersed, I joined another one. And even though I was called Uncle Tom, I wasn't Black enough, I didn't know Black history, I shouldn't be commenting on Black subjects, I stood up for our people. I did lectures across the country talking about this situation of white supremacy. I studied with some of the most brilliant minds in the area of Kemet Egyptology, of history. I want to tell you that we all bear the responsibility of Emmett Till's murder. Because when we all should have been fighting, you see, your number one prime directive, like Star Trek, they have the prime directive where you go to a planet and you can't intervene in the culture of that planet. Your prime directive as a person of melanin complexion, as a Black person, is to fight for the freedom and liberation of your people at all costs. At all costs. Nothing comes before that. Nothing. Because you're in a battle to make sure that 200 years from now, your descendants will be here. And proceeding on the course that we're on now, they won't. It's a Qesankh ma'a keperu. We're taking old wisdom and knowledge and we're trying to apply it to today, which doesn't work. You can't look at what Malcolm did or Garvey did or Elijah Muhammad did and think that's going to work today. You're dealing with a more sophisticated enemy who has infinite amount of funding, an infinite amount of resources, and a very powerful military structure. You don't understand the nature of the evil you're dealing with. Wow, you really think we should talk about that right now? Yeah, it is off topic. Just email me and I'll tell you. And the evilness of this politicians and the evilness of the university system, because it's there to de-educate you and to program you to support white supremacy. It's not there to educate you. You see, where we should be fighting to bring the system down, because I am not for the system, I'm for bringing the system down. You're trying to negotiate with evil. You're coming to the table with evil and you're saying, let's negotiate because I want part of the booty that you have captured. No, you should be looking to bring the system down and to build a new one. But there are too many of us who want to acclimate in this system. And here's the danger. Homogeny. This is what I talk about as a very, very dangerous thing for us as people of color. And if you want to understand homogeny a little bit better, understand what happened to the Black Argentinians. They were assimilated into the culture, and that color, their Black color, pretty much wiped out. And their legacy pretty much wiped out. So now you don't even think of anybody who could be Black from Argentina. And that is the same plan they want to use for us here in the United States, is to have us assimilate interracially mix so that we will wipe out who we are, bringing in immigrants more and more to dilute us. Now, I'm not one of your Black national purists, but I'm just telling you what their plan is. And instead of us all working from a spiritual perspective of saving our culture, we support that culture, we support Cardi B, we support Nicki Minaj, we support, who else is out there? Jay-Z and Beyonce. Those are very wicked and evil people. And they're doing nothing to help you. Rather, they're doing the opposite, which is to keep the structure going of white supremacy. We have to look at this situation that we're in from a totally different perspective and start to understand that our participation in these diversions, hip hop, sports, are detrimental to us. I don't care what the NBA is doing. I don't care what Kanye West is doing. I care about what's happening with our people. I care about what measures and means we're taking to ensure that we have freedom and liberation. And you know what? Most of us, 99.9% of us, are doing everything that we can to support white supremacy. Everything we can to support it. Because when you partake in these divergent deflections, it gives a signal to the rest of the world that you may have made it. You're on par with white people. So you shouldn't be complaining about racism, when that is not true. There's still a racial wealth gap. There's still police brutality. We don't even look at what happened in Argentina and say that is a model for which they're going to use on us. We don't even understand that. And what fasting in life is telling you is really important. He's dropping some knowledge here, but many people don't even understand that. When I told people that they're trying to eliminate Black men from Black Panther, everybody called me a coon and called me a sellout. You don't even understand how they're tricking you in these movies. You're so behind. You don't even understand white supremacy or racism. You don't. You don't understand the covert operations by which they implement it. Because if you had, you wouldn't have supported Black Lives Matter. You wouldn't have supported Biden, who is against integration. You wouldn't have supported Kamala Harris, who just made a career off locking Black men up. What is wrong with you? You know, in the DSM, they're going to come out with a DSM-6. There should be a classification for white supremacy as a psychological disorder, which calls for treatment. But they won't do that because that opens the door. If you put that in DSM-6, that opens the door to reparations. So they won't do that. And it also needs a classification because many of our behaviors that we engaged in are for the sake of assimilating into white ideology. Let me say it again. Many of our behaviors are done to assimilate into white ideology because white supremacy has put at the forefront as the de facto way to operate. If you operate on a set of white supremacist ideology, then you are socially accepted. If you operate against white supremacist ideology, then you're ostracized. You're put on the peripheral. You're a pariah. So we have two classifications that we need. One, white supremacy as a psychological disorder that is affecting the planet, because we have to look at this in a global perspective. And two, whatever name we want to call it, the disorder to assimilate into white ideology as a means and method to gain privileges. For example, a Black woman knows that she has a baby of lighter skin hue, then that baby will have an easier time in life. That is instinctively put into her because she'll want to mate with a lighter skinned person, because primitively encoded in her is the protection of her offspring, whatever that means. And if it means producing a lighter skinned baby, then that's what she'll do. This is why a lot of Black women in the Black community look at the good hair the baby may have, or the light colored eyes, or light skin. They all brag about that. They come around the cradle and they ooh and awe over the baby. Talking facts. If you guys get an opportunity, please donate to the channel, please, and hit the like button. All right. This is why we act in opposition to our best interests on a deep subconscious and psychological perspective. We gravitate toward those things that will give us privilege. And those being, if you're white, you're all right. Hey, Benj Thinker. No, that's a fallacy. You're absolutely right. You're 100% right. Lighter skinned people don't have it easier, but in the mind, the rationale is the closer you get to whiteness, the more privilege you get. So therefore, genetically, she's going to seek to get as much melanin out of her offspring. All right. So I want you to understand that. So the goal isn't to become light-skinned. The goal is to breed out the entire melanin component to the baby. And that will come through the course of generations. So going back to my original point that we all are responsible for what happened to Emmett Till, because we sit back and we support white supremacy. We had an opportunity as a collective to band together to get justice for Emmett Till, but we're monkeying around, marching on Washington with the Nation of Islam's stupid plan, which was no plan, twice, marching on Washington for nothing, when that march could have been for Emmett Till. If we had come together collectively to do something like that, that would have forced the government to indict Carolyn Brandt Dunham. But we didn't. We just marched on Washington for nothing. No agenda, no reason. But you see, we are people who mistake symbols for progress. We're okay with a bill with Emmett Till's name on it, but we're not going to fight and scream and yell to get those in Mississippi to indict her. We won't do that. And that is because we have assimilated into a culture and we have adapted the ideology of the culture so that we don't do anything that steps outside and is too radical. Oh, we'll buy a BLM cap, we'll throw some money at them. But when it comes time to stand up, you see, what does the Italian mob do? What does the Japanese Yakuza do? What do the Arabs do? What does John Wick do when you mess with him? You never heard from again. You never heard from again. But what do we do when you mess with our kids? Well, George Zimmerman is still around, signing autographs on Skittles. Carolyn Brandt Dunham is still around. 80, what is he? She's 86 years old. Still around. So you're telling me that with all the mass murders in Chicago, black on black crime, rappers killing each other, Biggie and all these guys, and you have this frail old white woman still alive. Meanwhile, everybody's big and bad in the rap industry talking about how they'll take you out. But these white supremacists aren't hiding. They're in plain sight. Do you see what I'm saying? That there's something psychologically wrong with us. All these other people I mentioned, the Yakuza, the Arabs, they're okay. They know their duty. They know their responsibility. And you know not to mess with them. But we don't know what we're supposed to be doing, and we're too afraid to do it. Let me tell you something. Nothing comes of any value without bloodshed. Without sacrifice. Sooner or later, we're going to have to stand up and draw a line in the sand. Because they will become so evil and so diabolical that we'll have no choice but to stand up. And by that time, it'll be too late. So we might as well do what we need to do now before it gets any worse. We need to send a clear message to them that this will not be tolerated. This is against God, and we have God on our side. But don't expect God to help you, because God has endowed you with her powers. Fasting is life. There is a major witchcraft upon us because we forget the ancestors' path. Once you reconnect with them, you wake up from the spell. I agree with that 100%. And I would get into that in another broadcast because I can break down the whole thing, the witchcraft and what they're doing. Because I told you before, the forces that we're fighting are cult forces. The ruling elite, the 1%, are cultists. That's how they've been able to get so far. We're looking at this. This is like a Rubik's Cube. And if we don't watch what we're doing, it's going to be all white circles, all white. That's their goal. Our goal is to keep it like this. I want to thank you for tuning in. If this message has resonated with you, please donate to the channel. This is Qesankh Ma Keperu, son of Ma'an Tahuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Helaru. Until my next video, I'm in Ra.